All right, so welcome back, everybody. So, this movie was it was interesting. I actually thought it was going to be longer than what it was, but I'm not complaining because after that Way of the Water movie, the 3 hours, I don't need to be sat through no more 3 hour long movies. Okay, but anyways, this movie was actually pretty good. Now I was confused because there were some people that were saying, that they didn't like it. There's some mixed reviews, but I don't know. I kind of like this movie. There were some parts that did confuse me. I'm gonna be honest. When it comes to time travel and all that physics and stuff, you done lost me because that was not my forte in school. So yeah, that whole theory of relativity and stuff talking about well, if you go back in time and then you go back to that time and you create a time paradox, you done lost me. I'm sorry. So yeah, but anyways, so the movie starts with Scott Lang. He's just having a happy life, I guess. He's back. Everything's back to normal. Okay, he has his daughter in his life, his wife. Hope they're all happy. He's looking up to Hank. Hank is there. Janet is back. Listen, it's a big happy family. He's happy. He didn't wrote a book. Okay, he's doing a whole little book, tour thing, whatever. And he was like reading parts from his book as he's like walking down the street. I really liked Scott Lang, like his character. He's just this happy-go-lucky, really friendly, just nice character. Like that's what I really like about him. And I like what they titled his book. Like, don't forget about the little guy, the little whatever it was called. It was a very interesting title because of course it was a double meaning because he's Ant-Man, he's the little guy. And I thought it was very cool and interesting because they kind of did give him the short end of the stick with the adventures. Like they kind of just like threw him under the bus a little bit. Like, like they didn't really, remember him that much. Like I feel like he was like the forgotten Avenger. But I don't know why, because his stuff was cool. I was here for him, being Ant-Man and all that kind of stuff. But he never really took it personally, you know what I'm saying? And it was funny how, like, he was going in, they were giving him, like, free stuff, because they thought he was somebody else. And then he goes into the coffee shop, and they're like, oh, no, it's for free. And he's like, why, thank you, thank you. Before he could even be like, oh, you remember me from, and they're like, Spider-Man. He was like, I'll take it, I'll take it. And I was like, wow, that's kind of messed up. But like I said, he handled it very well. But anyways, and so his daughter, good God, he gets a call from the jailhouse, which was his worst nightmare because he promised her mother, if y'all remember from the first movie, he's going to make sure that he took care of her, he did right by her, that he was a good example for her, that she was going to not follow in his footsteps, his criminal footsteps, which I'm not throwing any stones, right? But, and I missed his little friend group, by the way. They were really funny in that last movie. But anyways, he gets called from the jailhouse, and he goes down to the jailhouse. This girl, I guess she shrunk a cop car and, trying to stop some people, or stop the cops, I think, from like plowing down some people during a protest. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, I get you're upset because, she did end up in jail. But, I mean, considering the nature of what she did, like, if you were in a situation would you have done, anything different? But she just had such a smart mouth. I don't know. It was weird to me. But he was like, listen, I'm just worried about you. That's all. And she's like, well, I can take care of myself, Dad. I'm just like, can a dad be a dad? Can a dad be a dad? Like, my goodness, I would be grateful for that, But anyways, he comes to find out, over family dinner, that she has been colluding with Hank and Hope, dealing with the quantum realm. Now, why after Janet Van Dyne was stuck in the quantum realm for how many? 30 years, I think. Why would they want to have anything to do with the quantum realm? And after the blip, and they were all there. They all got blipped out. And he got stuck in the quantum realm. Why would they want anything else to do with the quantum realm? I'm just saying. I'm just saying. After all of what happened and them dealing with ghosts from the second movie, remember her? I think that was her name. And they had to go to the quantum realm to do something, to pick up some particles or something. I can't remember what it was. But they did all that. Why would y'all want to go back there? Why would y'all want anything to do with the quantum realm? Like, I just feel like these things that they were tapping into, that they're tapping into with these Marvel movies, are things that do not need to be tapped into. Okay? Anyways. But she was so fascinated with the quantum realm. And meanwhile, poor Janet is just like she's just looking at Hope, not Hope, she's looking at his daughter, Cassie, like she's some, demon spawn that's getting into something that she doesn't need to be getting into. Because, essentially, she is getting into something she's not supposed to be getting into. And so I'm just like, why didn't she say something, And Cassie's just like, oh, I made this device where you could, like, do something. I forgot how she described. I told y'all they lost me with all this. But from what I could, grasp before the rest went over my head, she had made some sort of device that was supposed to help them like look into the quantum realm without having to go there. And I was under the impression that that meant that they couldn't go there with the device. I could be wrong, because like I said, I'm not exactly the smartest person in this subject of time travel and realms and dimensions, and I don't want to be, okay? But anyways, so they're all like, wow, this is very good. Like Hope and Hank are like, this is really good. Cassie, wow, you're making great progress and all that kind of stuff. Meanwhile, doggone it, Hope then took over the company, and she's the head of the company and all that, and she's over here winning and making boss lady moves and whatnot. And they're just all happy for her. And Janet's just looking like it's about to be the end of the world or something. And she's like, turn it off now. And then she breaks the whole device. And I'm like, okay, I get that you were having some, traumatic flashbacks with anybody that's been stuck in the quantum realm for that long. I'm sure she probably was having some traumatic flashbacks, right? But what warranted her to have that kind of response? And then two, sis, ma'am, I'm gonna need you to get some therapy, okay? And Jesus, expeditiously. But anyways, they're like, what is wrong with you? And then I guess something happened. Clearly I was wrong, and something malfunctioned with the little device, and then bam, they're all sucked into the quantum realm where they didn't need to be at all. And she was just like, no, not in here again. And then they then got split up, and then Cassie was with Scott, and then Hope, and well, basically the whole family, the trio, before Scott came along. And she was like, everybody shut up and be quiet. And then she like pushes them up against what I think was a tree, and then there's that little ship that came by, and they were like, what is that? She's like, it's a long story, just follow me. She's like, we gotta find the other two, and we gotta get up out of here, and I know somebody who can help me. It was giving me Star Wars vibes, and I think it's because all the different species, so to speak, different types of creatures, and like this just weird looking sky and whatnot, which was interesting. I guess they called them, I think, quantum beings or something like that. But I saw somewhere where they were like a ripoff of something else, but they couldn't label it that because they didn't have the rights to. I might edit that out. But anyways, so they were going, and then they find this guy. I forgot what his name is, and I forgot what the name of the actor was too. A very famous actor. And he was basically like getting all cozy with Janet. And doggone it, Hank was looking like, what you doing by my wife, bruh? And I was like, yeah, what is he doing by his wife? Well, I don't like this. And he was, dropping hints basically. They probably got involved over that 30-year time period. And Janet was just sitting there like it was like the look stuck between you didn't just got caught at the dinner table between your husband and your side dude, and basically this uncomfortable situation that she didn't take the time to explain to them before they got deeper into said situation, and now that's coming back to bite her in the butt basically. And so she's like, oh, I met him some time ago, and he was like, oh, well, you didn't tell him, did you? You didn't tell him all the people that you got unalived. And she was like, and she had told them, she was like, well, some people call me a resistance fighter, and other people call me a traitor. Just depends on who you ask on any given day. And I was like, okay, because I don't remember her doing all of this when they did some flashbacks in the second movie. I don't remember this. So then this guy, turns out that he basically, I guess, was gonna like turn on her, whatever. And they were like, well, what, it's time to bounce. And then Hope, I tell you, Hope, I don't want to say she was like trigger happy, but she was like trigger happy, and I was here for her. Okay, she was like, she already had us suit on. Like whenever they got sucked, she was the first person to take her thing out. She hit that thing, and it was on. And I was like, why was she the only one prepared? You can always count on Hope to be prepared. The rest of y'all are just goofy. But anyways, she was sitting there with the gun ready, and Hank was like, no. She was just looking like, I'll shoot everybody up in here. And I was like, I'm here for it. And finally, she was like, screw this. She just starts, like, beaming people, and then they start shooting people and punching people. And then, doggone it, that scene where he ate that poor little creature, I didn't like that at all. Tugged on my heartstrings. But then Hank got him back. Hank was like, oh, I got something for you. And then he takes the little thingy that makes things big, and he threw it on the other one, and it was like, oh, I'm gonna get you back now. He grabs him, and that's all I needed to see. I was like, yeah, that's what you get it. Yeah, you reap what you sow. What goes around comes around, all right? You didn't have to eat that thing. You could have got something else that wasn't living. But anyways, then they get on the ship, and he was like, so you want to explain to me what the heck that was? And he was like, listen, I was gone for 30 years. What else was I supposed to do? And she wasn't making no excuses. I'm not the type of person who likes to make excuses for people who commit adultery, okay? But I'm nobody's judge, so I'm not here to throw stones. But I like the fact that they had a mature, honest, adult conversation about it. Now, mind you, it was in the middle of getting shot at and trying to get a ship that he didn't know how to operate and didn't want to operate. I didn't want to blame him because that was just nasty. But mind you, that was in the middle of them trying to get away from getting shot at on a foreign ship. But I just appreciate the maturity of the conversation that they had. She was like, listen, I was stuck here for 30 years. Some things happened. We ended up, it happened, right? He was like, well, I got to be honest too. Yeah, there was this chick named Linda. I think it was Linda, right? And she was like, what happened? She wasn't even mad. She was just like, what happened? And he was like, didn't work out because she wasn't you, babe. And I was like, man, that was, see, he's slick, man. He's slick. Hank is slick, okay? That was romantic. I gotta give him points for that. Now, I read somewhere that in the comics, he was actually a very abusive husband. But they switched it up on this one, on the movies, and I'm glad. Like I said, I told my brother, I was like, that was slick. He would have got me all over again just with that one. When he said it didn't work out because she just wasn't you, baby. I was like, okay, now, see? Now we got to pull this thing over after we get where we're going. But anyways, so they get going and they're trying to track down Cassie and Lang, who already got snatched up by some weird beings. And then they over here talking about blah, 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 blah. I can't remember what they said. But then Cassie was like, drink the goo. And I'm like, you couldn't have paid me any amount of money to drink that nasty mess. But then they forced him to drink it. That was just unnecessary. Okay, just unnecessary. They force him to drink the goo. He drinks the goo, and then automatically he can understand them. And then there's this guy who can like read people's minds, and he's trying to tell them like, they're like, where are you from? And he's like, listen, we're trying to explain we came from Earth. We're from like a different timeline. This is the quantum realm. We're in a completely different time and space and time. Like, it's hard to explain. And he's trying to listen to the both of them explain why they're there, how they got there, and why they don't need to be there. And he's just like, just stop talking. Like, I can read your minds. Y'all not here to hurt us. And then there was this one lady, I forgot what her name was, Jeanette Gerard. I can't remember what her name is. She was like, listen, and they kept saying their usage of he, like we already knew who he was. Why they had to keep saying he? I was like, nah, I don't like this pronoun thing that they're doing. It's annoying. It's getting real obnoxious real fast. But they were like, he came here and he destroyed our homes and took out all our people. And if Janet came with you, then he's looking for you too. And it was all because Scott slipped up and said, we got to go find Janet. Now, why he couldn't just say Hope? Why he couldn't say Hank and them? He could have said, we got to go find Hank, Hope, and them. Like, and that would have been fine. But no, he had to slip up and say Janet. So they were like, well, if you're looking for a Janet, then he's looking for y'all, all of y'all. And he's about to be here. And then that was when they showed up. And I'm thinking, oh, finally, Kang, we about to see this guy. Played by Jonathan Majors. And I made a little skit, I'm probably going to repost it, of whenever they did the series, the Loki series. Whenever they made the Loki series, and I did like a end of the season, kind of like a recap, last episode recap, I did like I didn't do a standing ovation. It was a seated ovation, if you will, for his interest as He Who Remains. So I'm going to do another ovation from my seat, for him and his interest as Kang. But see, the funny thing was, he didn't even come in at that moment. It was Modok, and they had just tried to introduce him. They tried to introduce him before that. They're like, oh, we sent this thing, like whenever he had finally caught up with, Janet and them. He sends Modok, and I'm like, why does that sound familiar? Like, I heard of his name somewhere, like in a comic somewhere that I didn't read, that I saw somebody else tell me about on a video on YouTube. But anyways, so they're over here trying to escape. Oh, and they also got on that little flying, I think that was like supposed to be like a mantis. I like manta rays, if you will. They're just really cute to me. I don't know why, especially the really big ones, like the giant mantis. I don't know why. They just look so majestic when they swim. And then watching it fly, that was cute. I'm sorry. It came down there and she was like, oh, it's friendly. And I was like, I hope so. And then they get on and they take off and then they trying to escape. And then she starts to explain to them, and I'm thinking to myself, how did she keep all of this a secret? And then she explains to him how in the world she met Kang, and and that even made me double down on how did she keep this from him? She explains eventually, of course, like so they show you early in the movie, whenever she was there for some time and she was shooting those little things away, that he crashed in his ship, unwillingly. He got banished. He didn't know that yet. And then he like saved her from getting, got by one of those things. And he was like, what is this place? So she helps him. He spins her this sob story of, I don't even remember what the sob story was. I was too busy looking at Jonathan Majors. But anyways, that he had to get away, or he like crashed on there by mistake. And she was like, well, I'm gonna help you. And she spent, I don't know how many years she spent trying to figure out some kind of fuel source to power up his little stupid little core thing. He had the right one because, child, like I said, it took her years. So imagine somebody else. They probably would have never got up out of there. But anyways, it took her years to figure it out. And then when she did, she touches his little thing. And I was like, well, that's a very convenient way to place that thing to get caught by what you were doing. But we're not gonna go there. She touches his little thing and she sees everything that he done. He wiped out whole timelines, obliterated all kinds of people on all kinds of worlds. And she was like, and she was looking at him and he was like, oh yeah, and then you put the, internal carburetor and you stick that into the automation. And he turns around, he's like, what is it? And I'm just like, girl, you better get up out of there because he's one of the bad ones, clearly. Well, I think all of them are bad. Like, I think He Who Remains was probably the only actual good variant. And he wasn't really, like, good, so to speak. I was like, girl, you better get out of there. And she was like, don't touch me. Stay away from me. And he was like, what did you see? She was like, I saw everything. He was like, listen, just let me explain. And in my mind, I'm like, you can't explain that to me. You can't explain that to her. You can't explain that to us. You couldn't break the fourth wall and explain that, okay? There's no explanation for it. But he was trying to tell her, oh, well, there's the other variants were out there. We were all fighting anyways, blowing up stuff and getting rid of timelines. But they didn't like how I was doing stuff. So they decided to get together and banish me. Like, they were in a contest, if you ask me. Like, I didn't told you this went over my head. So, if you're looking for a detailed analysis, look elsewhere. This is the comedic analysis, okay? But he was basically like, I'm going back. He said, look, if you finish helping me, put my core back in, and I won't destroy your world. I won't destroy your earth. And she's just looking at him like, and I'm supposed to just take your word for that? And it was what I was thinking. I was like, oh, well, why, thank you. That makes me feel so much better after I've just found out all of what you did. Thank you. Your word is everything to me. Yes. But he was like, oh, don't worry. I won't, you helped me. And remember, he was like, and then he tried to play off her emotions. Like this, and that entire time, I was like, how you gonna sit there and play off of her emotions? She didn't told you her whole life story. How she felt bad because she told her daughter she was gonna be back that day. And that was the day where she just happened to not be back because she risked it all to save people. And it wasn't her fault. You know what I'm saying? But she felt like I lied to her. And I'm just like, now, how you gonna blame yourself for that? You out here doing, superhero stuff, lady boss stuff. Nobody could have saw that coming, and he was like, oh, well, let's just keep working. I'm like, and we'll figure out a way to get out of here and you can get back to your daughter, and he was like, I can help you with that. Time is my thing. So I can help you with that. And I was just looking at him like, I don't know if I trust him. This was before she saw, what happened. And I was like, I don't know, man. It sounds kind of shady. He was like, you could go back to your daughter. I can make it so that you never even miss a day. And the way Jonathan Majors is a good actor, the way he was, making those facial expressions, I was like, And she was like, I'm not letting you leave. Like, and he was, and in my mind, I was like, but if she does that, then that means they're both stuck there. But she took one for the team. She said, I just saw what you did to all of them, and I'm not about to take your word for it that you're not going to do that to Earth. So I'm just gonna go ahead and say screw both of us. And he was like, come back here with that. And I don't know how she got away from him, but kudos to Janet. And she took the thing and she went bam, and she made it big. And he was like, no. And I was like, that's good for you. And so then I was like, wow, so she actually could have gotten home a lot sooner, but then he had to go and be a monstrosity of a person, of a variant. She was explaining this to them. And in my mind, I was like, why in the absolute world didn't you tell them this before all of this happened? If you would have told them, then listen, Cassie might have been like, oh, well, yeah, I definitely shouldn't be making this machine then, because if that's what's in there, then I don't even want to look in there. You know what I'm saying? That's not to say she still shouldn't have been doing that just because, like, it's the quantum realm. Anything could have been in there. But, heads up, like, the guy that's like, conquering whole timelines and wiping them from existence, he's down in there. You might not want to do anything with that, a heads up would have been nice. But anyways, And so they were like, wow. And you know, at first her and Hope were about to get into it because, you know, but then she was like, I was just trying to do, I got stuck down here and I didn't want to say anything because I just want to get back to y'all. I just wanted my family back. I just wanted things to be normal. They had a little moment, and then Hope was looking at her like, Mom, and she was looking at her like, Hope. And I was like, I didn't sign up to cry today. But anyway, so then they were trying to get to where they were trying to go. And then, like I said, Maddox got to them and they were just blowing up everybody and everything. The houses was moving. And that was funny. That little thing was like, he was like, the house is alive. And he was like, you mean to tell me that where you come from, they're dead? And I was like, well, you don't want to come to Earth then, if that's how you feel about it, which that's how you feel, that's how you feel, but don't come to Earth. I did not appreciate the whole jokes and the private part jokes between Maddox and Cassie. They could have kept that. But anyways, he's blowing up all this people's stuff, and I'm like, come on, y'all. Then they talk about, get to the ship, and then he didn't blew up the ship, and I'm like, so what happened to all the people that were on the ship already? And then he didn't took all of them, and they didn't take them all hostage, and then he, you know, Kang finally makes his appearance, and a little clap there for Jonathan Majors, and he gets to Scott, and he was like trying to figure out who he was. He was like, you know, have I like unalived you before? Like, what are you? You're an Avenger. Like, I've taken out so many of them across the timelines that I've wiped from existence. Like, you know, taking a dry erase marker to a flimsy dry erase board. And he was like, really? And he was like, you're not the one with the hammer, are you? And I was like, first like, do you see him with a hammer? But anyways, he was like, no, that's Thor. I'm definitely not Thor. But we're totally like alike, like same body type, same luscious locks, everything. Yes. He was like, oh, you're Ant-Man. He was like, okay, well, I have a proposition for you. I need some Pym particles to help make this core get up and running. I need you to, you know, shrink and go and get that said core. Now, why he couldn't do that himself, I wasn't quite sure. Maybe because he couldn't shrink like they could. He's like, you got the suit. Go ahead, shrink down and get me that core and bring it back so I can get back to my ship and I can leave this place. Or I'm gonna hurt your daughter. And I was like, now why you gotta bring, you know, whenever you have an issue, you know, they used to say, leave the women and the children out of it. These days, they be playing dirty. And he was like, I'm gonna hurt your daughter. I'm gonna take her out of here. I'm gonna unalive her. He was like, no. Like, he was like, you know, at first he was holding on. He was like, you do whatever you want to me. And he was like, oh, yeah, you sure right. Cassie, and he was like, no, okay, I'll do it. And he was like, okay, that's what I thought. And then he was like, okay, just don't hurt her. And so then he goes down there. Meanwhile, Hank and, you know, Hope and Janet are like, we gotta go get the core first before he gets to it. So they get there, and they're like, okay. And then they're hearing like all this interference, and Hope is like, wait a minute, is that Scott? And then she puts on her wings, which that was very cute. I think her suit is the cutest. She goes down there, and then that thing where they were splitting into stuff, it was funny and it was confusing at the same time. Like that part, my brother and I, we cackled. I'm serious, we cackled at the part where he was like, what's going on here? And he just kept multiplying and multiplying and multiplying. And then one of him got big, and then something had happened where I guess they bumped into the core and it like ripped him to shreds or something, and he just fell down in pieces. I mean, he plopped down in big pieces like chicken wings. I'm not even lying. And they were like, oh no, it's about to get messed up in here. And they all started putting on their helmets and running all crazy. We cackled at that scene. We did. But anyways, we cackled, and then he manages to somehow, you know, focus on Cassie because he was losing focus. And that's something that some people have, that, you know, their brain goes at 1,000 miles per hour. He was worried. He was scared, you know. And then he hears Cassie on the interference. He was like, Cassie, we're all doing this for Cassie. And then they get together like good old ants. Very interesting creatures. They're helping him up like how ants do. And then he was almost there. And then something happened. I forgot. He got distracted and he fell all the way down. But only in time for Hope to come and save him. I was like, she's got you. She's like, don't worry, I got you. And then she brings him up there and they hit the thing with those things. It was funny because they did one, and it literally like, it was like, you know, whenever you feed a dog a pill of medicine, it has to take it and just, you know, spits it out. It's basically what it did to that little, you know. He was like, oh, okay, I got something. He threw a couple of them at him and then shrunk it down. And then they got it right in time for Kang to pop up out of nowhere. I'm like, wait a minute. So did he unshrink? Because for him to be down there don't make no sense. I don't know. So he was like, now give it to me. He was like, nah, fam. And he just took it anyways. And I'm like, so they never really explained the extent of Kang's powers and his abilities. Like they did with everybody else, but haven't quite given us the rundown. So I'm a little confused on how his stuff worked. But anyways, he takes the thing and they both shrink to get ready to like, fight him. And he literally swats them like flies. I thought that was hilarious. I did. I feel like there was a double meaning behind that. Because Hope literally had on wings. She was a yellow jacket, was she not? So she literally got swatted like an insect. That was hilarious. I'm sorry. And then Hank couldn't do nothing because he ain't had no suit. So, they were all up the creek. And then he brought her back up there. And, they were like, we got to get back up there. And then all of a sudden, Hank was like, oh, yeah, the interference I was hearing, that's what the ants. Those are the ants. And I was like, I didn't forget about them ants because y'all remember when they all got sucked into the quantum realm, the ants were in that little thing. And I was like, when that happened, I was like, look what y'all done. Y'all done got the ants sucked into this too. It's one thing for y'all to get sucked into the quantum realm, but y'all done goofed when y'all brought the ants into it. They didn't ask for this. They didn't ask for this. But they hadn't got all developed, and I don't know if I'm buying the wolf cookies of that explanation that Hank gave us, but because it's Hank, I'll eat them. And he was explaining how they, developed and evolved, and they had those little things on their heads, which was very cute, by the way. And then it was like these giant ants. I don't know what it was that was so cute about those giant ants to me. Maybe it's because I'm a biologist and a zoologist at heart. But they were cute. And the way they were like running like that was hilarious. I'm sorry. Those 6 little legs, well, big legs, that was cute to me. And funny. And so he was like, these ants are gonna help me. And he was like, I have an idea. And he was like speaking in all kind of ant jargon, and it was funny. He was like, don't worry, I got an idea, we're gonna fix this. He was like, we gotta go back because they have Cassie. And I'm like, okay, we on our way up there. So they get up there, and Kang is not even trying to keep his end of the bargain. He was like, I got something for you. And he didn't got big, and he started smashing stuff. When he was talking, because he is such, like I said, a friendly and just laughable character because he's funny, sometimes I couldn't take what he was saying seriously. He was like, oh, what is our bond? Without it, we're nothing. And he was like smashing stuff, and, I laughed, but at the same time, it was a serious scene. And meanwhile, they were trying to sneak in there because he had snatched up Janet at the same time. She was like, no, I'm going to stop you. And he just pauses her and then just takes her by the hand. And I'm just like, okay, now, don't tell me that him and Janet had a fling too, because that's almost what it seemed like they were trying to pass off to me, but I don't think that they did. It must have strictly been a work relationship. But anyways, he brings her back. He was trying to explain to her, like I said, like I didn't already seen how all this is going to end, and trust me, y'all want me here before the mess hits the fan. And I was like, oh my god, because there are all those other Kang variants out there, and if he's any indication of how bad they can be, they might be in some deep trouble. And so I was like, I don't know, because remember that happened last time? One of the variants, they didn't listen, and Sylvie stabbed him, and then all hell broke loose. They might want to listen to him. I don't know. But, like I said, this goes over my head, so I'm nobody's teacher. But anyways, and she was just like, I'm just not here for it. She's like, you're a monster. You didn't did all this stuff. Like, all you care about is winning some sick contest of who can wipe out the most timelines and kill the most people and destroy the most, worlds and universes. And that's all y'all care about. It's a competition for you and the other Kangs. He was like, oh, you'll understand. He basically was like, oh, you'll understand it better by and by, basically. And I'm just like, no, we need to understand it right now. But anyways, then he concocted a plan to get back there. And then poor Cassie, she didn't got everybody loose out of the little, prisons that they were in, had to go against Maddox. And this dude, come to find out, this is the guy from the second movie. Or was that the first movie? I think that was the first movie, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think that was the first movie, yeah. I forgot his name. Darren, that's what his name was. When he hit that thing and he shrunk him like that, and he went into like the quantum realm and didn't come back. Yeah, that was that guy. And I was like, they really brought this dude back all the way from the first movie to torment this child again. And he was like, I'm going to defeat you this time. And I'm like, really? A kid? Really? You can't fight one of the adults? But she was fighting him, and then she gave him a little heart-to-heart and was like, like I said, I don't support that usage of language. But in so many words, she was like, well, you can't be evil all your life, can you? You can do better than this, You ain't got to be a jerk. And I don't know what... I'm not buying the wolf cookies on him changing his mind like that quickly, just off of talking to her after he had a serious bloodlust while he was chasing her. But apparently it changed something in his little mind. And then they were fighting Kang, and You know, he was trying to move his whole entire dynasty, that whole entire thing. He was like, I'm taking it with me. He puts the thing in there and he was like, we fit to go now. And then they come up there and they trying to stop it. You know, they fighting him. And I didn't believe in the slightest that they would be able to stand a chance against Kang. I didn't believe that at all. It was as powerful as he was supposed to be. I didn't believe that. I did not believe that they were going to stand a chance, that they were going to stand any kind of chance. I just thought he was too powerful for them. But apparently I was wrong, or they nerfed him so the good guys can win, and to support this plot armor that they were quite clearly giving all the main characters. And so they took it outside. He got mad. Boy, when they shut that thing down, especially when he tried to send that message and Cassie intercepted it, and they shut that thing down, he was like, you know what? I got something for y'all. And then he leaves. He goes down there himself. He put on his suit. And he starts fighting them, and I was like, oh, you know, they might actually lose this time. You know, I don't know how they got, you know, what they got the last time, but they might lose this time. And then, doggone it, Hank comes up there. Hank didn't even need no super suit because, doggone it, he came up there in style. He came up there with the trench coat. I was like, Hank is coming up here in style. This man is looking cool. He don't need a super suit. He come up there with the ants, and the ants are just crawling, and again, I'm not buying the wolf cookies that those ants were strong enough to overtake him. Now, maybe they, like, you know, picked him up. Yeah, maybe. But I'm not buying the wolf cookies of the ants being strong enough to throttle his attempt. Especially after he put up that shield and they were, like, working on it. I was like, they must be using some kind of quantum realm technology or pin particle something in order to stand a chance against Kang the Conqueror. Really? Y'all are going to let ants best the Kang the Conqueror? As cute as they were, I'm not believing it. Not believing it. But anyways, they literally carried him away. Like them ants on Tom and Jerry that picked up the picnic. They literally carried this man away. I cackled at that too, because that was funny. And they were like, okay, we got to shut this thing down, and then we got to get the heck up out of here. And Janet was like, listen, she was typing away at the computer. I can buy us a little time. But we got to get in there, and we got to get in fast, because it's the only shot back to the house. And they get there, and then I just knew something stupid was going to happen, because I saw the trailers, and I know how to put together 2 and 2. And I feel like death flags were waving around Scott Lang. I do. But anyways, so they put Cassie through there. They put, you know, Hank through there. They put Janet through there. Like, yeah, please get her in there first. And then Hope went there, and then she's just waiting for him. They're all waiting for him. And then he gets ready to jump through there looking like Super Mario mid-jump right before Kang comes out of nowhere. So clearly he has gotten away from the ants. And then stops him. He was like, oh, no, you're not about to go up in there, but I am. And he starts beating Scott up. I felt so bad. He handed Scott his behind. He was beating Scott up. I really felt bad. And I was like, I don't like this. I don't like seeing people getting just clobbered like this. He's getting clobbered. And he was like, I don't just go through there. And he's like, no, you're not. And he managed to stop him. Like, I legit thought he was about to get through there and leave Scott behind. But he managed to stop him. He was like, you know what? I ain't got to win. Because he was like, oh, you're not going to win at this. You think you're going to beat me? And he was like, I don't have to win. I don't have to beat you. I just have to make sure we both lose. And I was like, yeah, you can't beat him. Both of y'all got to lose. That's right. That's something I would do. I can't beat you. I can't win. Oh, okay. Well, we both losing today. I got something for you. And then he did what he did. He put that thing on the little quantum core thing. And he was like, no. He was like, we both about to get sucked up in here today. And he's really tried to get away from him. Hope was like, looking, and she's like, where is Scott? And I feel like, whenever they first met, she was, she kind of gave him a hard time. But you could tell that she absolutely loved Scott. She was like, y'all stay here. I got this. And she came through there. At first, I didn't think they were going to make it. Like I said, I really didn't think they were going to make it. But right before he could jump through there and Scott was not going to be able to stop him, she came through there flying and she started shooting him. And I was like, yeah, that's right. Get him back. But he managed to get him stuck in the core. And then he got sucked in there. And I was like, that just, like I said, this was just working out a little too well for me. And I guess maybe I'm too used to seeing the good guys lose, because that's a theme, a trope, if you will, they've been playing through these movies and these TV shows lately. But I was surprised that he actually managed to accomplish that. I'm gonna be honest, and not to double down on that stigma that was on him. That's the little guy. But I just didn't believe he was strong enough to take out a Kang. And I don't even think they took him out. I think he's just in the core somewhere. So he's probably going to get out of there eventually at some point in time. I feel like he's going to come back at some point in time. Like, I feel like this is not the last time that we're going to see or hear from him. But anyways, the little thing disappeared. And I was like, well, at least now that he's stuck in there, he's stuck with hope, at least, he's stuck with your wife, it's better than what Janet was stuck with. But anyways, I was like, man, they're stuck. And I'm thinking, okay, so this is how the movie's going to end. Because I thought that he was going to be unalive. That's what I feel like the foreshadowing was. But I was glad that was not to be true. And that if, like I said, if he had to be stuck in there, at least he was stuck with her. But then they bring up the little machine that Cassie had that got this started all this time. And then open up another portal, and then he gets through. And I was like, now that's another thing that didn't make sense to me. What? But anyways, we're happy that they all got back home. And then, he got back home and he decided to celebrate those 5 years that he missed. I thought that was very sweet. But on the way there, he did pose a question. What if he messed up something along the way or in some other timeline by sucking Kang into that? Because he kept thinking, remembering him saying, oh, I know how this is going to end and you're going to need me here when the mess hits the fan. And I was like, oh, what if he did mess up something? But just as fast as he thought about that, he was like, no, we're probably fine, being his happy-go-lucky self. And then they made him pay for stuff when they found out he really was who he was. But like always, he handled it very well. But anyways, like I said, there were a lot of things that didn't make sense to me. Like, why didn't she tell them? Now, there was somebody, I saw like a theory somewhere on YouTube where they were saying that whenever Sylvie stabbed He Who Remains, that was when everything changed and that timeline got interrupted. And this was a new thing that happened after she stabbed him. So it wasn't like it had happened already. It was something that just recently got introduced into their timeline when she stabbed him. So that might have been why she didn't say anything to him. While all of a sudden she was like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs and looking like she was about to snap at the mere mention of the word quantum. That would make sense, but it still doesn't make sense. Modok, first of all, like I said, that big head just disturbed me. I'm sorry it did. And on top of that, really? Like, so all of a sudden, like I said, I wasn't believing the sudden change in him deciding to fight Kang. And then he just got clobbered real easily. And he was talking about so I'm an Avenger, right? And they just humored him because he was in his last moments. And I don't know, it was an uncomfortable and sad moment, but slightly funny at the same time. I didn't know how to feel. It was odd. I wasn't ready for that. And then, like I said, at the end, when they were fighting Kang, it didn't make sense to me, like that they were powerful enough to fight him. Like, I just didn't think that they were gonna do that, pull that off. It's good that they did, of course, but I didn't believe that they were gonna do that. I'm gonna be honest. But it's great, like I said. I'm not complaining. It was cute, the little scene that they had all together as a family, sitting together at the dinner table, because that's what they needed. They needed their family back together, and it was. But I still don't believe that. And then too, when they showed you the end credit scenes, all the other Kangs, like the Kang Council, I'm just like, and these are the other three that we got to deal with now because he's not here. And it's almost kind of like whenever you have to vote for people to take over, and it's like, who do you want, this person or this person? It becomes less about voting for who's going to do better, and it becomes more about the lesser of two evils. And I feel like the Kang that they got stuck in the cord was the lesser of two evils. Like, I feel like they pulled another Sylvie without knowing it. I hate to say that. But at the same time, I shudder to wonder what would have happened if they would have let him through there, or didn't stop him at least. I did not want to know. But anyways. But it was a good movie. It was a pretty good movie. I did enjoy it. I enjoyed seeing everybody from the Ant-Man group back again. That was nice. Like I said, I like the theme. Every movie has its theme, has its, style. I liked it. I liked it for what it was and for what it presented. Now, like I said, were there still some things that did not make a heap of sense to me? Absolutely. But I'm still here for it. I'm here for where this is going to take us now. Oh, there was also that end credit scene with Loki. I was like, oh, so they must have been looking for him. But it's still, I'm sure they'll explain how they got to that point. Because I'm like, okay, so is he back on friend terms with, what's his name? Because remember, when they left off last episode, he didn't remember him. Because after Sylvie did a stabby, they didn't remember nothing. They didn't remember him. They didn't remember nobody. None of that happened. It didn't happen to them. So I'm excited to see how they got to there from Quantumania. And like I said, after the stabby happened, like I'm even I think it was like 2 years ago, a year ago, I can't remember. I'm still mad about that. Like, I get it. She was upset, but still. Like, it's sometimes, your revenge, your personal feelings have to take a back seat to what's for the greater good. You know what I'm saying? So you don't mess up something now for everybody else. But I feel like that wasn't taken into account by Sylvie, and this is another reason why I feel like there's a stigma here. People are gonna point out, see, you women, you're always emotional. You do things out of your emotions, and she just reinforced that stigma. I don't like that. But anyways, this was a good movie. It was a pretty good movie, I guess. But y'all let me know what y'all think and how y'all feel down in the comments below.